Welcome back to another episode of the Canon on the Boomer Bus channel. I'm your host, Terry, and today doing a review of Sinners, the new film by Ryan Coogler. It's been a minute since we did a movie review. I know I haven't been to the theaters in a while. I went to see Captain America Brave New World. I think that was the last one. And I don't remember if I did a review for that, but anyway, it's been a minute. This has been on the radar. Actually, a nice little lineup coming up these next few months of movies that I want to see. And I'm so grateful because we still got a place that just has super cheap movies. And so unless I want to see a movie in IMAX like this or like, you know, any of the other big movies like Superman and stuff, I'm going to see that in IMAX. But if it's not that, like Accounting 2's coming out, I'm going to go see that at the cheap theater, stuff like that. So anyway, went to see this in IMAX only because Ryan Coogler said so. He said it was made for IMAX, so I had to do that. But yeah, Ryan Coogler, I'm not going to say he could do no wrong, but he's definitely one of those directors with a voice and it's just somebody that I feel like we've watched. If you've been paying attention to his work, you've been growing with him. And so he's just kind of must see in that group of directors for me, at least. So when you got this project, of course, he's teaming up with Michael B. Jordan again. The first little teaser was crazy. It had everybody talking. And then, we led up to it, to a movie that's kind of a horror thriller drama type movie. I thought it might be a little action, but I wouldn't say it's action. Definitely some action parts, you know, when there's fighting, but it's more of a drama / thriller is kind of what I'll say. But with that unique flavor of Ryan Coogler. And if you paid attention to his interviews, he's been very upfront about how he just really wanted to focus on music. And I feel like with Christopher Nolan, he always has some element of time, but each movie I feel like he's focusing on a different aspect of sorts. Time is there, but there's still different things in it. And I feel like Ryan Coogler is getting to that point too, where he wanted to really hone in and give some spirit to the script. And I think the spirit of this script was the music and specifically the blues and from the South and kind of that. And so that's definitely evident. What I'll say off top, because if you are new, I don't do non-spoilers. I think they're a waste of time. So I will be talking about some spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, come check this out after you saw it. But what I will say on a non-spoiler tip is I love the movie, first of all. Let me say that. But then I would say the biggest thing I felt walking out of the door, and I felt a lot of things, but the biggest thing that I kept feeling was I wanted more. I wanted more. And I don't mean like, hey, you know, let's continue the story, which I felt like you could have did that too. But I wanted more as in everything you gave us. It was good, and for the most part, it was enough. But I needed a little bit more from everything, whether it was characterization, whether it was lore and, you know, background knowledge of the music, whether it was, seeing kind of not seeing all of the past, but seeing some of the things that led up to certain things. And especially the way the movie ends, which, again, if you're still listening, you haven't saw it, or if you saw it and you didn't notice, stay through the credits. There's a whole scene at the end. The way that movie ends, I'm like, nah, now I just got more questions. Now I got way more questions. And so that, you know, in itself is kind of a bittersweet thing. It's a compliment. I won't say it's a backhanded compliment, but maybe you might think of it that way. But I feel like it's mostly a compliment because I'm saying what you gave us was so good that I just needed a little bit more. And so that's what I will say my main takeaway was. But getting into the actual movie and everything. And I never stick to one structure. It always just kind of how it hits me. I would say I feel like, I guess I really don't have any negatives per se. Like I said, the biggest negative, which is kind of a compliment, is that I felt like we could have used more. And I mean more in the sense of like, and I'm starting to feel this way about everything, which I kind of hate, but I'm like, this should have been a series. This should have been an HBO Max series. Like, if we would have got even just a season and it was 6 episodes, so we got 6 hours instead of the 2 that we got or whatever. Like, that is really the only negative that I could kind of say, because things happen and I don't necessarily... I'll say it like this because this is a spoiler. So they're in the juke joint, and really the only thing that escalates like the tension, once we figure everything out and the characters know what's happening, the only thing that escalates the tension is the Chinese lady, like what were they, Mrs. Chan, because his name was Bo Chan. Mrs. Chan like invites them in. That was so like, and honestly, I get it. Like, you probably didn't want to do a whole, 5 rounds of psychological warfare. And by the way, I think what was Smoke? I think Smokes, because they kind of did that with him. They kind of did it with him and Chan. But he was the first one where they tried to tempt him to come out with his brother, with Stack. And that moment where everybody instinctively held Smoke back, because he wasn't like fighting or being hysterical. He was like leaning. He was just kind of drawn in to what Stack was saying, to like he was going to drift outside, and they had to hold him back. I thought that was just a masterful scene. It encapsulates everything the movie is talking about, including the lore, and has great acting. It's shot well. It's subtle. It's beautiful. But anyway, so they didn't want to do that all night. I get that. And so you probably had to come up with some way to escalate the tension. I don't think that was the most creative way. And I do feel like it was because of the time constraints, where it's just like, okay, we got to kind of get this thing going. Because the way it's playing out, I'm thinking like, okay, she's going to like open the door, and instead of like running out, she's going to like try to take some people with her, which is ultimately what she did. But she did not have to invite them in. Like, that made no sense. And so that was one of the moments where I'm like, again, we needed more time to flesh this out. And I feel like that all around. And part of what the movie is doing is to make you feel the weight of the choices, because part of you wants to be like Hailee Steinfield, whatever her character's name. She goes out, like, she's got all this like background and stuff that we never really dive deep into. We only scratched the surface, and then boom, she's gone. She's a vampire now. And I just felt like kind of shortchanged. And then the same thing, like, even though the trailers kind of told us, the same thing with Stack. Now, Stack ended up having a better role, but still it's like, dang, it's just over. And again, a lot of that is kind of what the movie's trying to do, is trying to put the weight of decisions not only on Smoke as the main character and Sammy, but it's also just kind of this, this kind of, I wouldn't say trope, but this kind of narrative where the sinners and the sins of the sinners kind of come back to consume them. But I just felt like it'd be a little different, man. Like, if they did give in to temptation or something, like, and really that was nobody's thing. Everybody just kind of got by happenstance. Even the original couple, you think like, okay, if we weren't so racist, like, and we actually gave this a little bit of a chance, then we could have been saved. But we decided to lean to this white guy instead. And even though we had no reason to really trust him, and so they kind of got taken down as sinners, but nobody else really did. Like everything just kind of happened. Like I don't know the lady's name or the actress, the one from Loki, and but she played the love interest of Smoke. Even like she didn't do anything wrong, and she goes down. Like, and so I just felt like that could have been stronger thematically. And I feel like it would have been stronger had we had more time to kind of let it breathe. So that's really my only negative. So I guess the rest of this is just the positives, man. I mean, it was well crafted, and I'm not a big horror fan. I'm not a vampire fan. And so I'm sure I've heard there's some homage and some similarities to other things, but for me, in terms of just kind of its own lore and not really its story structure, it's very original. And it made me feel so many things, and it's kind of cool with Color Purple coming out so recently that it gives you a little bit of that, okay, back in that time, like seeing black people in different spaces. Like people are still picking cotton sharecroppers, but then we see these twins who they got on suits and they got money, but they gangsters. And so it also has that feeling of The Harder They Fall in terms of, again, just kind of, I don't know, kind of that blackness to it. And you really get this world where you get to go back in time. And there's a reason why war movies and period pieces and all these things that have typically been very white European culture, they've always been regarded high. You know, that's the movie biz. Oh, you made it look like the old time, the costumes, the way people talk and all that. And so it definitely has that effect where you get to feel this period piece element of it. But then you also infuse that with some music in the way, and it's something Samuels or something like that. I don't remember the guy. He did The Harder They Fall, and he did The Book of Clarence, and I love both of those movies to death. But he adds in like contemporary music in there, and it's like some African vibe too, and it's cool. It works. This was different when you go strictly with the blues and then kind of the evolution of the blues. But then they go further with the music, because then you got the whole, I don't know the correct term, but I'm a guess Irish, like Celtic music and all that. That's coming from the vampire. And again, we don't really know his full origin, but that gives you like, and he had these gold medallions, which again, I'm thinking that is another hint, because he said it's from another world in another time. So it seems like he is very old and he's from Ireland originally. But anyway, he had that music he brought through in the generations. And then we obviously had that cool scene where they kind of show Sammy's power to bring everything together. And again, I truly believe, and maybe I'm giving Ryan Coogler the benefit of the doubt, but I truly believe he has something very substantive there in terms of the whole music and the power of it. But I just feel like it got cut for time, and they didn't really dive into it like they should have, because there's a point where the main vampire, and I don't even know if they said his name, but there's a point where he's like, I want your memories, I want your stories, I want your songs. Even though Sammy hasn't even lived that long, but still, that to me was the first time it clicked. Because other than that, I was like, why does he want him? Just because, and he did say, I want to see my people. Like, so I wasn't exactly sure what they were trying to say. Like, this music eventually could help him, like, resurrect certain people, or help him see certain people, like if he concentrated hard enough. But then he was trying to kill him. So I was like, okay, does he want the ability to play that music for himself? So it's like these special beings that have this gift, and he's like, it's an ultimate opportunity to kill one so that you can have that gift. They didn't flesh that out as much, but again, I believe there's something there that Ryan Coogler thought out. They just didn't put it on the screen. But man, the performances by Michael B. Jordan, so good, so good. The twin dynamic, and I think we've seen enough of these movies where actors understand how to nuance the two twins, but it's not a guarantee. So he did a good job with that. I love the character, and I'm gonna tell you right now, the first thought I had, and I didn't really think about this in the trailers too much, but the first thought I had as soon as we saw the twins, I was like, I want a whole series about them. I was like, could we just do a movie or two about them? Because they had that type of gravitas. And like I said, with Michael B. Jordan, for me, I've always liked his work. I think kind of the hood black guy, when he's tried to do that, it just never felt authentic to me. So I always made fun of him for that. But I knew he's a good actor. And he's better at playing like hood black dude now, I guess. But you can still tell he's acting. But he's really good, man. I mean, obviously he transformed his body. He's older now and all that. And he's a better actor. So when he's on screen as Smoke, he has that presence. And I like Stack, but Smoke just had a presence to him. And he was just really the type of dude that you like, yeah, he's the main character. And he could like really hold all of this down. So I just loved it, man. I love the whole kind of not mysterious, but a little bit mysterious background story on the twins. I really like the idea of Sammy being their cousin, and this idea of like what's passed down and what's in the blood, because everybody kind of talked about like they didn't believe he had the same blood as the Stackhouse twins because of how they act and how he acts. And his dad is a preacher, and even he is like, my dad's a preacher, but I'm just as much Stackhouse as anything else. And so that idea, and even at the end where they say, oh yeah, that guitar wasn't, some famous musicians, that was our daddy's guitar. And they talked about how Smoke killed their dad because he was beating on Stack all the time. And again, they don't go enough into it. And the reason I feel so strongly is because they take time to play with time and show you flashbacks and insert it, and they do all that. So I'm like, it was nothing to add some of that into the movie, but nonetheless, great themes, man. Great themes, good set, great editing. Like when they wanted to go scary, they got there, especially early on. And like I said, intercutting the present and the past, and like with all the noise and the sound, like it was intense. And I'm sitting there in that first 5 minutes, I'm like, this man told us to go IMAX so we could be scared crapless, like, cause it ain't no escaping it. That screen is huge, the sound is loud, so all that jump scare stuff is intense. And they do it a few times, but then he pulls back. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I kind of feel like Ryan Coogler should have kept his foot on the gas pedal. I'm not a horror guy. I'm not a scary movie guy. That's not my stuff. And so there was a point where I was just squirming. I was on the edge of my seat like, bro, this is uncomfortable. The racism is uncomfortable. I feel like, and it's I guess kind of, coincidental, but we had like a high heat wave today. Because it's been pretty cool, but today was 80, so it's feeling a lot warmer than usual. But even from the movie, I felt hot. I felt uncomfortable. It felt humid, and then like jump scares, and then you just kind of know something bad's gonna happen from the trailer. So I've just felt uncomfortable, and I was like, if they really wanted to, like right around when we got into the beginning of the party and stuff, if they really wanted to, they could have really messed us up. And I think this movie messed me up in different ways. Like, actually, the scary stuff is very little. I mean, some of it is graphic, but it doesn't, that part doesn't stick with me. I'm more messed up over some of the other stuff, the thematic stuff and the history and all that good stuff. But they could have, if they really wanted to just keep making us so uncomfortable, they could have. And part of me feels like he should have just did it. It wouldn't have been my type of movie. It probably would have been a movie I only watched once. But I was like, hey, man, you kind of, when you got the audience kind of hooked, and obviously you don't know that when you're making it, but if you feel like, man, this gonna have the audience like really uncomfortable on the edge of their seat, let's push the pedal and blow their mind and give them something they just will never forget. But still, it was great. What I said essentially was that Ryan Coogler put up 40 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, and missed the game-winning shot. Because, like, that was almost a masterpiece game right there. But to me, it fell short mainly because how, like, the end, like I said, some of the stuff just came too convenient. And to be honest, I'm going to have to watch it again because when the vampires run in, they bite in hella people. Now, we saw old girl get bit and he had to kill her. And then we saw Delroy Lindo sacrifice himself, which I also feel kind of like he didn't really have to do that, but sure. So he did that. And then we saw, I call her Bella Real, because she's a whole mayor of Gotham. And she was in The Woman King. But we saw her get taken out. And Sammy made it, so did Smoke. I'm pretty sure that's everybody. Oh, and we saw Mrs. Chan burn up with her husband. So I'm pretty sure that's everybody that was in the room. So I'm like, who are they biting? Because they had like 3 or 4 or 5 shots of them just biting people. And I'm like, but those are none of the characters that are still human. So I definitely got to deduct a couple points for that. But overall, I just felt like the whole climax of it felt a little rushed. And it just came out a little convenient. Especially because I'm like, they could bite you anywhere. Like we saw they bit Hailee Steinfield on her back. And yeah, I think that was pretty much it. But we saw like they could bite you wherever. And so I'm just like, there's so many times where they could have got bitten. And I'm just like, how are they going to stop all of these vampires? And I like the whole, like, you know, gear up for war. They sharpening up the stakes and they got, we established the tools you could use to fight a vampire. But when everybody's rushing, I'm like, how are they going to stop all of them and not get bit at all? And I just felt like, even though most of them all died, I just felt like it was a little too convenient. So that was that. But yeah, I loved it, man. The atmosphere, I loved all of it. I love the conversations of like power and like, oh man, Smoke was just good, bro. Smoke was good. I don't even know how to say it. It came together so well, and it was such a blend. It was pretty much what I expected when you said Ryan Coogler is going to put his, toe into horror, because with Jordan Peele, as much as that was a surprise to people and stuff, I didn't know that Get Out was going to be as tight and well made, but I knew it would be creepy, because if you watch Jordan Peele on the Key and Peele show, then you know that that's kind of what the dude's into. So that didn't really surprise me. But with Ryan Coogler, I'm like, okay, I've seen enough of his work and interviews to know what he's about. If he's going to go into the horror, it's not just going to be pure slasher scary movie. It's going to be a well blended, recipe. And I just felt like it was. I mean, I don't know that the jokes always fit in the moment, but the jokes was good. The dynamic and the drama was good. The racial commentary was good. Dropping nuggets of history was good. Paying homage to a lot of cultures was good. The scary parts was there. And Ryan, he put his freak flag up with this one, boy. I didn't know. I never knew. Ryan Coogler I'm like, hey, yo, we got like 3 sex scenes in here. And did y'all peep? Because, you know, he had the conversation with Smoke or with Stack earlier. And Stack was talking about licking the ice cream and the button and all that. And there's certain parts that, like, I felt like the sound was louder than the dialogue. So it took me a while to catch up to what they was talking about. But obviously, I kind of knew what he was talking about with that. So anyway, they play that back with a little sex scene with Sammy. Boy, if they didn't ADR that slurping in there, I was like, no. There's no way they added in slurp sounds. That boy Ryan Coogler was on one, bro. But yeah, man, that's it for me, man. It was a real good time. I'm definitely going to go see it again. And I'm just so curious to get past the story and stuff, because I think the story's pretty, you know, it's pretty open and shut. I'm curious to hear people's takeaways with all the different nuances of the movie and kind of how they felt about those different things. Because I feel like there's a number of choices and there's just a lot of symbolism in there that you could take a lot of different ways. Even if they didn't do the end credit scene or the mid credit scene, I would have been like, what do you think about Sammy driving away with that little piece of guitar? And obviously we end up seeing what it means, but still overall, it's just choices like that. It's little things like that I'm curious about how why did they think Ryan decided to do it a certain way? And then the last thing I'll say, Michael B. Jordan cannot pull off no high top Gumby fade, brother. Oh my God, that looked terrible. It almost took me out of the scene. The Coogee sweater and all, it was cool and all that, but I just, that high top messed me up. It messed me up. But what did y'all think about him letting his brother live and those two living on and not killing him and just like being chill vampires? What y'all think of that? All right, so that's it for me. Go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share around. Get the convo started. Thumbs up, subscribe. And remember, if you heard it, here's official canon.